Anyway, I will. I'll get on my bandwagon and high horse for a minute about one of my favorite subjects. For those of you who may not know me, our next speaker is Charlotte O'Connor. But what I want to sort of editorialize for a moment is not about Charlotte per se, but what Charlotte does. And Charlotte provides a very unique role, not only in our office, but at the university. To my knowledge, Charlotte is the only person on the university who provides the type of skills that she does. And it's always been on my bandwagon that the skills that she provides not only need to be provided to students with disabilities, but should be provided to all students. And that at the University of Michigan, we used to have a place called the Reading and Learning Skills Center, where students could get the type of skill building that they really could use to maximize their abilities as a student, to improve their performance, and really to help them grow both as a person and as a learner. And it's unfortunate that we don't have such a place on campus, and that the only way that anybody can get this service is if they are registered with our office, and then they do access Charlotte. Charlotte is sort of an academic coach. What is an academic coach? We have a lot of people on campus called academic coaching, but it means different things in different offices. What Charlotte does is that if you think about tutoring, I always look at tutoring as two different types of tutoring: content tutoring and process tutoring. A content tutor is you've got a student that you're working with, they're having a problem in chemistry, in communication, in psychology, and they need somebody who has a body of knowledge in that area that they can sit with, who can then sort of give them individual instruction. That's content tutoring. Process tutoring is the very process of learning. How do we learn? How do we study? So study skills, time management, organization, skill building, whether it's in the areas of reading or writing or language. Those are the competencies and expertise of an academic coach like Charlotte. So Charlotte provides this particular service to our students, and then today her talk is Understanding Students with ASD. If you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. So with that, I think Charlotte's going to help us to understand where the rubber meets the road, and I know that I've set up a high expectation, but I also know that she's quite quality. So with that, Charlotte, I'll let you.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. So in watching, and this seems really loud. Am I really loud to you? Okay, because I kind of have a big voice. I probably don't need it, but anyway. In listening to the speakers today, I'm realizing there's not a lot new that I'm presenting, because I think we've hit on such a broad range. But I think I'm very practical. I'm down to earth. My experience is working with students both in the classroom and one-on-one as an academic coach. So in keeping with our theme today of boot camp, I'm going to be sharing a lot of stories from the trenches, if you will. All right? So a metaphor for autism. I initially wanted to play some Chris Brown music. We had a little bit of technical trouble. If any of you don't know Chris Brown, he's a rapper. There's a lot going on in the music. So this is a metaphor that an autism blogger actually wrote. I think that exercise that we were let in really kind of brings this to some clarity. But imagine yourself working 80 hours a week, every week, while being forced to listen to Chris Brown at full blast the whole time. Then imagine someone yelling at you because you don't understand what they're saying. And imagine watching other people hanging out together, enjoying this lifestyle, keeping you out of their 24-hour restorative spa with heated mud baths because you don't conform. So I'm sure those of you who are being tapped on and read to and clapped at could really feel this. Okay, so how do you envision the autism spectrum? I think thinking of a spectrum, I tend to think initially of something that looks like this. Either you're 0 or 100%, okay? Kind of like a light spectrum. But in truth, it's more like that, okay? So lots of colors, lots of flavors, lots of variations. Hence the theme of my presentation, if you've met one person, you've met one person. I mean, I kind of feel bad. It's like, what am I really sending you away with? But I think it's that broad, let's not pigeonhole people, but expand our vision, that there are a lot of different behaviors and characteristics of students on the spectrum. So some positive traits, and Aki spoke to this, that these students I work with often have great persistence in the face of obstacles. They're very brave, in my mind. They thrive on routine and clear expectations. It's really important for us to be very clear and precise when we talk. An extensive vocabulary. I mean, there are students who just blow me away. Sometimes I think, I'm not smart enough to be helping you. But they're super, super smart and very, very honest. And not only are they very honest, but they expect that honesty back from us, as been touched on here. To the point, honesty of sometimes so honest that sometimes feelings can be hurt, okay? And not understanding. And so I think we need to take that, maybe not, I speak with a lot of metaphors, and part of my presentation is don't speak with metaphors. I'm aware I'm doing it. But take it not only with a grain of salt, but maybe with a whole barrel of salt. When people say things, take a step back. Should I really be offended? Or maybe I need to think about what is this person bringing to this experience and this interaction? I guess being a little thick-skinned helps. Okay, so how does ASD impact communication? And again, rather than a single symptom, you may see patterns, okay? So if someone in this exercise we did, okay, so you may have an apparent lack of apathy, but it's because you just can't stand all the stimulus that's coming in. So maybe you've checked out. Maybe you're looking the other way. Maybe you're putting your hands over your ears because it's just, that buzz of the lights I hear as a student with autism at a really high volume where you may be able to tone that down. Difficulty with give and take. I'm going to dig a little bit into some of this a little more. But impaired nonverbal behaviors, such as eye contact. I work with a student who, again, another brilliant student, had a 4.0 last semester in a really tough curriculum. But whenever she meets with me, she's looking 90 degrees away. And she's applying to grad school, and she's saying, do you think maybe I should tell someone, about this? And my take is, if you're not comfortable disclosing, you should never disclose. You don't have to tell all your personal business. But my advice to her is, you may want to say, you know what, it's really hard for me to look right at you, so this is why I do this. And that's all that really needs to be said. But I think you notice when someone's not looking at you. So not to address it is really not taking away that concern. Maybe not having the facial expressions that we're expecting, but lots of nonverbal behaviors that we may experience. Okay, so resulting academic challenges, obsessive thinking, literal interpretations, back to the metaphors. A student told me that the week before the exam, someone in the class said, will the material from the past week be on the exam? And the professor said, no, nothing we've talked about this week is going to be on that exam. Now, most of you would know there was a little sarcasm there. She dutifully wrote that down. She did not study it and consequently didn't do well on her exam. So we really need to think about that use of sarcasm. I always think, and I'll talk about it here too, I think it's great to have things in writing, and how to write so that you can't possibly be misunderstood. Faculty members, if you're changing up your syllabus, it's really nice to print out a new one instead of saying, cross out that assignment on March 2nd. We're going to extend it to March 15th instead, because those things can be really disruptive to someone who thrives on routine. They have their whole semester planned out, and then you start changing it. Okay. Reluctance to ask for help. I think I like to ask, who likes to help other people? Show me your hands. You can do it right here. Who likes to ask for help? Much fewer hands. I don't know if that's our rugged American independence. I don't know. But I always ask students that when I teach in a crowd or I'm giving a talk. But if you want to help other people, why do you think other people don't want to help you? And so I think we really need to get used to that and encourage people that it's okay to ask for help. I mean, I am affiliated with an organization called the National Association for Developmental Education. And we say we're all developmental. We all have gaps somewhere. But their little tagline, which I absolutely love, is helping underprepared students prepare, prepared students advance, and advanced students excel. Isn't that beautiful? We could all be better. And there's this stigma. If I ask for help, it means I'm dumb. There's something wrong with me. And consequently, when you're dealing with other things that you feel like you're the only one, it can definitely lead to self-esteem and depression issues. And so we see that a lot. I see that in the students I work with. So academic challenges continued, difficulty understanding assignments. My daughter tells people my parents went to the U of M when it was easy, which I don't know. But in some ways, I always say, I think it was easier because I wasn't on 24/7. I didn't ever have an assignment due at 11:59 on Wednesday night or at 5 p.m. Friday. So students have a lot that they're juggling. And sometimes they don't understand. In certain curriculum, certain areas, there are multiple places to submit assignments. Maybe it's Canvas, maybe it's somewhere else. I hear all kinds of things. And things just fall off the radar because it's confusing. Okay, students have a really limited ability sometimes to recognize and understand thoughts, beliefs, and desires of others. And I think Melanie talked about that theory of mind. Again, not everyone. There are some people who feel like that. And then a hard time seeing the big picture. I find that a lot with writing. They'll come in and they say, I haven't begun, the paper's due tomorrow. And then they really can't see the forest for the trees. But a technique I use a lot is I'll be your scribe. You tell me what you're thinking. Sometimes I'll put them on Post-it notes, and then they can storyboard and move it around. Sometimes, I'll write something on my whiteboard they take a picture of. But there are tons of ideas in there. But it's just inviting a different way to bring them out. And getting started can be very, very difficult for some students. Social issues, living with roommates. A lot of students who are self-aware, who know when they're in K-12, are aware to work with housing before they get here. And some people really do prefer to live alone, or maybe to live with someone that they know coming out of high school that's a better situation. Making friends, that feeling of isolation. I love to hear about Aki's group because I think a lot of students, we invite them to things, we have events, they don't come. And if anyone has the answer to that, how to get students to come, we feed them, we do all kinds of things people have suggested. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, so help me out. Dating and romance. I've had more than one student who, we have very friendly, young, perky, generally women working at our front desk. And so students, because for coming in for academic coaching week after week, they get to know these people. And then they confess to me that they really want to ask them out on a date. And what do I think? It's really not part of my job description. But they get comfortable enough, but they're really awkward about, like one student was saying, well, I've asked a lot of girls on dates, they always say no. I said, you might want to get to know her a little bit better before you do that. I don't know. Again, I'm always open to suggestions. But I have a little video clip for you here about how to flirt. And this is the part where we don't have a panel of real students, but I'm doing my best to, and I don't know how to get my, here we go.
Hi, Autism Talk TV. This is the first of a new series of episodes featuring the Peers Center at UCLA, which does social skills training. So in this episode, Alex learns to flirt, and Alex will be flirting with a real girl at a real doctor's office. Stay tuned. Okay.
Hi, we're here with Liz Lawson, and we're talking about dating etiquette as a part of our social skills series. Liz, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Dating is a really important part of a lot of people's lives, and one thing that I think a lot of us have trouble with is letting the other person, your interest, your romantic interest, know that you're interested. I know there's flirting and other ways of making that happen. Could you give me some advice on that?
Well, it's really interesting. They've done all this research that actually kind of breaks down what people do when they're flirting, and then if they're flirting effectively, this is what it's supposed to look like. So you start by kind of making eye contact with the person, right? Okay, what do you think you do once you sort of engage them in the eye contact? What should you do?
Wait until they look away.
Well, okay, so if we do that, that might make it look like we're sort of staring at them, right? When we look over, let's say I'm looking over at you and you kind of look over at me, should I do anything?
Smile.
I should smile, right? Absolutely. Do I want to do a big toothy smile? Or do I want to do maybe just kind of a casual, kind of nice and friendly
Probably
smile?
casual.
Yeah, probably like a little casual, kind of nice little half smile maybe.
Yeah.
One of the things that you're going to need to be doing before you ever ask the person on a date is assessing whether or not it seems like they're interested in you at all. And so by this point, we should have been trading information and finding some common interests with this person. And that's typically how it starts when you ask someone out on a date. You're just kind of casually talking, you're trading information back and forth, you're talking about something that's interesting to both of you.
Are you watching Midnight in Paris on your iPhone?
I am. Do you know of it?
Yeah, I love Woody Allen.
So do I. This is one of my favorite movies.
Do you have a favorite?
I don't know. What's yours?
It's called Manhattan.
Oh, I've never seen that one.
Oh man, that's his best movie.
I should definitely check it out then.
Let's say we find out that we both are interested in seeing some movie that's coming out soon. You might say, well, so what are you doing this weekend? So you're kind of assessing before you ever ask them out how they react to that kind of question. So if they say, oh, nothing,
Yeah, that's a sign that they want you to ask them to do that.
that's a good sign.
Actually, they're playing it at that art house theater on Sepulveda next week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well that sounds interesting.
Yeah, what are you doing next week?
I don't have any plans as of right now.
Oh, well, you should come with me and watch it.
That would be really fun.
And that's also where you would ask for things like contact information, cell phone numbers, things that you didn't already have them.
Right. Well, you want to exchange numbers or?
Of course.
So basically, those are the steps for, asking someone out on a date. You just want to be trading information, find some common interests, ask them if they're sort of available at whatever time. If they seem interested, maybe ask them out related to that common interest, and then, exchange the contact information and all that.
Now, is there something that has to be said about practicing these things?
Definitely. I mean, all the skills that we teach as peers, we not only go over these rules and steps of social etiquette, but then we actually want to demonstrate what they look like to our kids and then have them practice.
All right. So I think what's interesting about this is, all of you daters out there, there's a lot of things we just do because we're comfortable and we figure out how to do it. It's the same way with learning and strategies. So many of our students are so bright that they get here, they've never thought about learning. That whole metacognition thing is they've missed. And they just say, I have no strategies. I don't know how to study. I've never studied before. And so just as dating, it's just not natural, where it may just be something that others of us just pick up. He needed that direct instruction, but he really liked it. He seemed to do really well first lesson. Okay, so take it from some experts, okay? We can all talk to you all day long. And we've mentioned a couple times Dr. Temple Grandin, who says I'm a visual thinker, not a language-based thinker. My brain is like Google Images. She is one person, and I've heard a lot of students on the autism spectrum say, please, no more Temple Grandin, because she's brilliant. She's been such a great advocate and a spokesperson and author. She's a professor. But everyone's not gifted. Everyone's not Temple Grandin. There are a lot of other people. And so this is another one with the same young man that we saw the first time, Alex Plank. And how did I do this? Will it just play on a click? No. Okay. Oh, and this is one of my favorite ones. Wait.
Can you click on the icon and maybe set up on click or on spacebar, one of the two?
Thank you. Who's ever helping me there? Aren't you smart? See? Need to ask for help.
I hear a lot is you're autistic. And it bothers me because it's taken me a lot of work to get to this point in my life where I'm able to form friendships and to, quote, act normal. When people say you don't look autistic, I sort of brush it off and kind of take it as a compliment that I've been able to pretend to be social with people. But at the same time, it bothers me on a different level, where people don't have the right view of what autism is. They don't know that autism is people like me. People don't say that they have this misconception. They don't say this is my idea of autism because people don't talk about it enough. And it's funny that it's so prevalent, yet the understanding of it is so low. Even among professionals, we don't know what causes autism. We don't know how to help people with autism become productive members of society. We have ways that kind of work, but those aren't a magic bullet. Those aren't, you can't just take a pill and have good social skills. And I don't know if that would be a good thing if you could. It's maybe a better person having autism, and I wouldn't change that at all.
So there is no autism look, as with other disabilities, and this is a little segue, but I tell the story. I was listening to the radio once, and Mitch Albom said something about a person who looked like they had dyslexia. Well, he got my Irish up. I immediately wrote this long email to Mitch Albom. He never responded to me, but I felt better about it. No one looks like they have dyslexia, nor do they look like they have autism. So let's not make assumptions. We don't know. We talked a little bit about sarcasm, irony, and metaphors. Another student told me at the end of her lecture, her prop said, in a nutshell, that's what's going to be on the exam. In a nutshell, she said she spent all kinds of time looking up that, what do nutshells have to do with microbiology? And then finally, it dawned on her that must be some kind of figure of speech. And she found it, and phew, wasn't that nice. But be really careful with what you're saying. Be direct and confirm that you're understood. It's pretty easy, Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm saying? That is a nice way to just make sure that, because a lot of students will sit and they'll nod their head. I mean, we've all done that. I've done it. I'm in class, I understand everything, and I go home and it's like, what in the world was that about, correct? Just missed something. Okay, write out instructions if possible and be precise. And I have a great example of being precise. Don't say things like, turn in this form by the due date. You're going to want to say, complete your scholarship application and submit it to the front desk in SSD before Wednesday, November 4th at 11:59 p.m. Would you guess that in my first career I was a technical writer? I wrote computer user instructions. So, who, what, why, where, when. It's really a great thing to do that up front. So there's no question about how things happen, who needs to do it, and how it happens. Okay, we have another video. And these are just some voices of people who have been diagnosed with autism.
Hey everyone, it's Casey and welcome back to my channel. So most of you know that about a year and a half ago I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, which is an autistic spectrum disorder. And when I was diagnosed, the doctor said something to me that will probably stay with me forever. Because he explained that for autistic people, the hardest part of life is normally childhood. And once you get out of childhood, it can be a little bit of a windy road, but it's not as bumpy as childhood. And when I heard this, I thought, yes, because I was diagnosed at 18, which meant that my childhood was pretty much over and I was getting into the adult side of things. And because of that, I thought that I was completely out of the woods, and it was fab, it was great. I thought, I can live my life now, knowing that I have Asperger's syndrome, but, at least I've gone through the hardest part of my life. But then, it sticks with me for another reason, which is, he was so wrong. I think there's this misconception out there that autism only affects children. And I think if I was to say the word autism to people on the streets, they would automatically think of autistic children. But children grow up, and we have many autistic adults in society now. But people don't really acknowledge that. They don't really think about autism in that way. And autism can affect us greatly in childhood, but what about adulthood? And are the struggles the same? No, because childhood and adulthood is completely different. But nobody really talks about the struggles that autistic adults have when they're adults. And today I want to run through a few of the things that I figured out in my very short time in adulthood already, the struggles that I have already discovered when it comes to being an autistic adult.
Okay, and we're going to stop there. We're not going to listen to all of her struggles, but pay attention to just her message and her demeanor, because I think, well, that's a question I'm going to ask you later, so I'm not going to give it away. Okay, I have some other perspectives, and I have another video somewhere. There we go. There used to be a video there. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Hi.
My name is Karen, I'm 34.
I was diagnosed when I was 3 years old. I didn't know I had Asperger's at that time. My name is Mike, I'm 28 years old. I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome at the age of 9.
As a child, I couldn't quite figure me out.
At the time, I went to see both my psychiatrist and my doctor. I didn't realize why I was being made fun of.
I realized why I was who I was all the years before that.
I didn't have all that many friends growing up in school. I would usually get into trouble, some fights, sometimes being suspended.
No, I had all kinds of sensory problems when I was a kid.
Having a diagnosis period has helped me out.
It was a great relief to me because it explained a lot of the troubles that I've been having.
And it really sort of made me feel better. I didn't know what it was.
It's hard to know whether something is you or is just how the world is working and you're not picking it up properly.
All right. So compare Casey, who was a person in the first video, to the folks we've seen here, okay? And I have some questions for you. So how are they different? You know, how are they the same? And what conclusions might you draw? So just talk among yourselves, people who are near you, and for a few seconds, and then we'll report out. Because I think there's some preconceived ideas.
She was diagnosed at a later age. What I they were diagnosed. Yeah, these folks talk a little bit more about struggle. Right, and not having support. She didn't bring that up. Yeah. Yeah, it seemed like several of those having them help them to make sense of what they're feeling. Very
All right, seems like there's been some good discussion. So talk to me. Tell me what you're talking about among yourselves. What do you notice about the speakers? All that talk, someone, please. Yes, thank you.
The confidence level between the first woman and those in the second video.
Do you have any ideas why, perhaps? No. Okay, that's a fine answer. The confidence level. Okay, what else? Thanks.
I was thinking maybe the first girl's demeanor was more comfortable because she was in her house by herself, in control of the video she was making.
Okay, that's great.
One of the women I was talking to thought maybe the age when she got her diagnosis, she didn't grow up just constantly telling herself like, oh, I'm different. This is because I'm autistic or whatever.
Okay, she's really embracing it. Yes?
I kind of saw it the reverse because many people don't realize that the social defects on the autism can occur at either end of the range. My son is one of those people who got a really late diagnosis because he was hypersocial and hyperverbal, and people go, well, it can't be autism, it has to be something else. We know there's something wrong, but it has to be something else. So they talk about not making eye contact, and they think people with autism all look away like that. But with my son, he would stare into your eyes, never break the eye contact, and just move in closer, and people would back off, and sometimes he got hit because he didn't know when or how to break eye contact. So I'm seeing that girl as being one of those hypersocial, hyperverbal people who, because she didn't get the diagnosis she needed, didn't get the support services she needed, and is thrust into adulthood at a really late date, fumbling and flailing because she couldn't get, there was no clue that there was something she needed help with.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Anyone else have anything? Yes?
So, looking at some of the folks in the video clip where the multiple speakers were coming, and maybe just by looking, it seemed like the older the person, as they talked about their condition, it seemed a little bit more burden to me. Like it had been a whole different existence for a longer time than the younger ones that seem just, I don't know, maybe just a little bit more confident. Now, I don't know if that has had anything to do with the change in society over time, but it just seemed like they had different lights in the eyes in the younger speakers and the older.
I don't have answers.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a clinician. I'm an educator, but I know from a behavioral standpoint, we're all working with students, and we don't know is really, you know, great points that were made that everyone, we could be working with someone on the autism spectrum who is making eye contact, who's very animated, so we really don't know, but we're dealing with behaviors and being sensitive. And I think in the beginning, I think it was Dr. Siegel, about respect is really, if we always remember that, no matter what people are bringing to the table, just respecting them and meeting them where they are, because we're not quite sure. Okay, so from a student's blog, this is some advice for us, for people, from a person who's on the autism spectrum. You can look us in the eyes, but in doing research and looking through materials to do this presentation, I found some literature that said make them look at you, which I find I would never do that. I think I don't want to make anyone to be out of their comfort zone, because I want to build that relationship where they trust me and they're going to talk to me so I can really help them. She says we're drawn to each other. So people with autism like other people with autism. Everything's a big deal to us. I'm thinking, going back to that, writing that paper and getting started, it just seems so difficult when it may not. I mean, I remember I was told in some classes, oh, it's easy, just do it. It's not always easy. It's really hard to sort through the forest for the trees and to connect actions and concepts behind them. We might show emotion and affection differently, but we do care about others. I gave a little talk at Sweetland, and I was talking to them about just being really careful, and I guess it's not emotion and affection necessarily, but about touch. And I think when you're working with a student, often you may touch or you may take their paper, and I have students who really get upset about that. So I think the important thing is always to ask, is it okay? Is it okay if I write on this? Or do you have certain colors you like? I mean, we highlight and we organize class schedules, and some people, history is always green, And I ask those questions, so I don't put them in a position where maybe they are, really out of their comfort zone. We're not all the same, which I think if there's anything I would like you to take away, we're not all the same, and I think the video clips really, really represented that. And we do understand what's going on. We're hyper-aware. It may not look like we're paying attention, but we're paying attention to a lot of things. There's a lot of stuff in there. So, am I looking happy or sad in the appropriate places? Makes me a little bit sad, but again, it's the hyper-awareness. And I have another student who asked me, she has a job on campus, and she said, I don't know if I'm doing a good job or not. I can't read that in my boss. And so we practice a lot of difficult conversations in my office, and that was one we practiced. That you don't need to go into great detail about what your disability is, that's an issue, but you may say, I would appreciate it if you'd be really direct with me. I'm okay if I'm doing something wrong for you to tell me that, because sometimes I don't pick up on that. So if you're direct, it really helps. So difficult conversations, I think the more we have them, the easier they get. So this is my little pooch, Franklin James, and I always end with him because, who doesn't love a puppy, and it makes me leave feeling kind of good. But questions? Anyone have any questions, any comments, anything else? Yes? Yes?
So my main question, so I work with a lot of students in general, and I think one of the biggest issues I have is I don't necessarily know if they have certain needs. And I think, how can I maybe, how can I change my own behavior, or how can I make it so that people might be more open to talk to me with their own comfort? Of course, never force anyone to,
Sure.
But how can I make it more easier for students to feel comfortable disclosing their needs to me?
I always ask, what are you really good at? What do you struggle with? Or how was K-12? How'd you do in high school? And often they'll say, I went to a resource room. Or that's a time when they may tell me. Sometimes they don't. But I think to ask those questions, and I think it takes time. And the beauty of what I do is generally I meet with students every week or every other week, and I have found that there are students who really don't communicate a lot in the beginning. As time goes on, they trust me, and we build that relationship. And I remember, studying learning disabilities, every single class I took, they said it only takes one person to make that connection. And you may be the one, so kind of you sometimes have to pull it out. It's not always easy. But I think you having that awareness, that's the first step, and that's wonderful. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? No, I wasn't that good. Come on.